they will come back.
Uh-huh.
O yan, live na tayo. So, tingnan natin kung nandun na tayo. Let me see.
I don't see.
Teka. Okay, Autism Family Support Group. Ting, 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 ting. Tanggalin na natin tong isa. Delete post. Delete.
Delete.
Yung isa, dinelete ko. Okay, bakit wala? Sandali lang.
Talaga day ngayon. May reason ata to na I will never know. Alam mo naman si Lord.
Ayan, we're live. Mayroon tayong isang audience.
I don't see us.
I can see us.
Where po?
When you go to Autism Family Support Group mismo, then you
Okay.
will see our we're already
Okay, got it.
live. Okay. Yay.
Okay. Hello?
Hi. Ayan, I think we're live. We're already live.
Whew, it took a while.
Ayan.
A very long while.
Ayan, hello. Hello, parents. How are you? Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. Ayan. Di po kayo makita. Hindi kami makita. Teka, bakit? Hindi kami makita as in. Sorry, wala akong monitor. Okay. Share na this. Hindi ko nga rin makita yung mga pangalan nyo dito sa comment section. Ay, kasi sabi ng StreamYard, hindi daw, kasi nasa group tayo, naka-Facebook Live, because we're in a group. That's why we really can't see yung mga names ng mga nagko-comment at hindi natin sila makikita. Sad. This is really sad.
Very sad.
Oh, I can see. Okay, Mami Cathy, hello. Ayan, Mami Geraldine. Ayan, I can see them na. Ayun. Hindi ko nga. Kita po. Yay! Kita na tayo. Okay. Ayan, pati si Mami Mami Nance, hindi mo pa rin kami makita. I hope you can see us na. Okay. So, there's a reason why dito po tayo ngayon sa Facebook group. We're doing live here in the Facebook group kasi nahack yung account ko. So, kung may nagme-message sa inyo dyan, if there's somebody sa old account ko nagme-message sa inyo, please, it's not me. I have this new account because I can't access my old account anymore. Nahack po yung aking Facebook account. So, hi. So, please bear with us. But, let's do this. We're doing Facebook Live dun sa new account ko and in our own Facebook group. Yay! Ayan. So, si Mami Rhea. Hello, Mami Rhea. Good evening. Yes. Okay. Let me introduce to you ang ating guest ngayong gabi. But before that, let me share naman muna yung let us share. Teka. Andiyan na siya. Teka, remove muna natin si Mama. I-add kita mamaya. Share ko muna yung screen ko. Dali. I need to do this. Nako, please bear with me mga parents. Talagang first time talaga to na nagkaganito-ganito yung account namin. So, I have to share this. Share my file. Okay. Ayan. Ayan. So, eto na. Ayan. So, tonight, our topic will be A Night with Teacher Anna, and the topic is sensory processing. So, how behavior can be affected by sensory needs. Mga parents, please, you can ask questions about senses, about sensory issues. So anything po, you can ask anything kasi Ma'am Ana will answer it. So before that, let me have this. So tonight, this is our practical guide for home intervention. And we have our favorite verse, Jeremiah 29, verse 11. Let's read. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. So this is our favorite verse for our kids, that God has wonderful plans for our kids. And then, of course, ang ating Proverbs 22 verse 6, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. Okay. So, before I call Teacher Ana or Ma'am Ana, may announcement tayo sandali. On Friday, we're going to have our prayer and fasting. And then, um, next week, it's going to be our parents online meetup. So, via Zoom, wala po tayong uh, wala tayong Facebook Live next Wednesday, but we're going to have online meetup sa ating Zoom. So, via Zoom tayo. Parents online meetup. So, that's next Wednesday. So, okay. So, let me introduce again our guest for tonight. Okay. So, our guest for tonight is Ma'am Ana Mariolla Martinez. She is the director of Compass Education. She is an occupational therapist, senior therapist. She's a teacher and a special education consultant. So let's welcome Ma'am Ana Mariolla Martinez.
Hi,
Hi, Ma'am Ana.
good evening. Sorry everyone, late kami kasi ang dami namin naka-Zoom pa kami. Tapos ngayon,
Oo.
StreamYard, ang dami pa ho namin dinaanan.
Yes.
I'm
So,
so sorry your got hacked.
yeah, nahack talaga. So, ang hirap, actually kagabi pa namin siya tinatry na i-recover, pero medyo hirap talaga kami. So, I just made a new Facebook para lang sa Facebook Live natin.
Okay.
Anyways, so we will just figure this out next week, mga parents. But tonight, we have Mom Ana Mariolla, my mentor when it comes to mga sensory issues. Sa kanya talaga ako nagtatanong. Yes, sa iyo lang ako nakakuha ng talagang very satisfying answer when it comes to may talagang sensory issues, and yung mga question ko about speech, sa iyo talaga ako nakakuha ng mga satisfying answers. Ayan. So, let's do it. Actually, gagawin namin tong mga parents parang question and answer. Hindi masyadong formal. But
Yeah. I had
yes.
prepared slides, kaya lang hindi ko ma-share. Kasi
Oh,
a different, 'di ba, yung this one we were planning kasi on Zoom, tapos medyo mas mahirap from StreamYard. It's not StreamYard's fault, it's mine. I don't know this well. So we decided to just do Q&A, 'di ba? Which I think
yay.
you
Ayan.
will appreciate more because I can help you with your sensory needs ng kids niyo.
Ayan. Ayan, meron na ditong isang question. Bakit po ok yung brushing sa kanila? Mamaya answer namin yan. But before that, Ma'am Ana, how to know, what is the basic thing ba na dapat we should know as parents when it comes to senses of our kids or sensory issues of our kids? What are those basic things?
So if I were to teach a class, no, of parents, I would start with, we know the five basic senses, right? Your hearing, your smell, your touch, your visual, ganon. But what parents don't know and what is commonly taught in occupational therapy uh, are the other senses called vestibular, which means balance, which is located in your inner ear, no? So that's one of the senses that we we are not familiar with as parents. The other one is called proprioception, and these are located in your joints, and then this tells you where your body is in um, space. Okay. And then the other one that's not very common is interoception, which means how you feel internally, sa temperature, or if you're thirsty, if you're hungry, let's say you want to pee, like that. These are the senses that tell your, for example, your bladder is full, it goes up to your, it's very, in the most simplistic terms, it goes up to your brain, it goes back down to alert your body that, oh, I need to pee, no? But in a lot of our children, if it doesn't, it's not, doesn't process well in the correct timely manner, minsan nafe-feel na nila pero ready to go na sila. Yung ganon. So they have a lot of accidents, really, because the interoception part of sensory doesn't work well. And let's say, for example, for vestibular, if your vestibular system doesn't work very well, you could, it's like people who, let me simplify it, like people who ride on a bus. Di ba yung ibang tao nasusuka na?
Mm.
Parang isang bus ride lang. Kasi nahihilo na sila. So that means the vestibular system threshold, we call it threshold, yung level niya is very low na. Yung mga galaw-galaw, wala na. Nahihilo na. Right? And for a lot of our children, it's the opposite actually sa in ASD. Their threshold is so high. So ikot lang ng ikot ng ikot ng ikot, hindi pa rin siya um, na he could still go around and around and hindi pa rin siya nahihilo. So understanding that if you're not neurotypical, like if you have autism, because autism isn't the only um, a diagnosis that is affected by sensory, then the processing is delayed or different from the norm.
So it is really very important for us parents to know the basic of sensory issues talaga.
Yes, absolutely. You should know because sometimes we think our children are being difficult, pero they're actually feeling overstimulated by the environment. And then they have what we call meltdowns. Hindi tantrum, ha? You have to know the difference between meltdown and tantrums. Tantrums are what we call when children don't get what they want. We call it tantrum. Pero if they're overstimulated by the environment, we call it a meltdown. And if you know the difference, then you're not so frustrated anymore. Kasi naiintindihan mo eh. But the thing there is you also have to be a really, really good investigator. I can share a story, which I often share when I do my teacher training or my training for other occupational therapists, even speech therapists. You know, I was working I was working in sensory integration clinic, and I share this story often, and so we did all the things that will get a child more integrated, meaning mas centered siya, mas ready to learn siya, yung body niya okay na okay na. Okay, that's what it means. So I was bringing him back po sa classroom, and pagpunta sa classroom may parang yard that we had to pass. Bigla na lang he fell to the floor, tapos iyak siya ng iyak. Hindi ko maiintindihan, like, what's happening? I just did therapy for you. You're supposed to be more centered, like before. Like, I couldn't bring him back sa class and dumi-dumi niya na. And then about 2-3 minutes later, I heard a helicopter go by. And kaya pala he was doing this, iyak siya ng iyak. And then as the helicopter left, he just got up, because this was my nonverbal ASD child, no? And then he was okay na. And then, I realized I didn't hear the helicopter, but he did. And that, since he has auditory sensitivities, that caused his meltdown. That looked like a tantrum, but it's actually a
Yeah.
meltdown. So we
How
don't know, di ba?
how will you know that? How will
So
you know
I
na,
didn't.
oh,
I
may
didn't.
helicopter. There's a
Ang
helicopter
layo pa kasi,
coming.
hindi ko marinig eh.
Yeah.
Diba? And oftentimes I talk to parents and they say, yes, when my son was young, it wasn't pala the potty training that was difficult. Sometimes it's the toilet flushing. Oh, when he hears the ambulance go by, wala na, because his threshold, his limits are very little. So, yung mga sounds na ganon, it's actually hurts his ear. And sometimes I talk to parents and I say, look, just because you don't see it, you don't feel it, doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Kunyari, I will get my finger like this and I will scrape the blackboard. Di ba gaganon kayo? Oh my God. Anong klaseng... That sound
Really,
is irritating to our ear, is it not?
nakakangilo.
Yes. And that is how it feels like for normal sounds. And we
Mm.
should honor that in our children. Because we don't understand that, we'll say, "Ah, ano nangyayari dito? Siguro kailangan niya ng toy," or, you know, oo, marami akong gano'n, nagwawala sa mall. Sabi niya, "But okay naman siya the first 10-15 minutes, Teacher Ana." Sabihin ko, "Oo, because you came there early. Wala pang tao. So now he can hear the aircon, right?" And then later on, more people came. And remember, yung mall, may echo-echo yan, 'di ba? For after a while, na-overwhelmed na siya na sound. It's like going to a rock concert. Ang daming tao, di ba? Minsan parang, oh my gosh, what am I? Gusto mo nang lumabas? Ganon. So sometimes it's not evident because, as I said, in the mall, the more people come, the more lights, the more action, the more everything, then they have their sensory meltdown.
Is
And
that
then
what?
a lot of people get annoyed na,
Yeah.
ano na nangyayari dito? But that's actually what it is.
Is that what they call fight or flight
Yes,
mode?
yes. When we are stressed, when humans are stressed, there's three modes: you fight, you flight, or you freeze. The reason you have fight or flight, number one, is for protection. Diba, syempre, if you see a tiger coming, dapat mag-activate yan so we can run, right? Right? So that is for
Yeah.
our protection. So for our children who are nonverbal and can't express themselves, yun, they try to avoid it and then they have a meltdown. Naiyak sila ng iyak, hindi mo maintindihan because if you remove them from the situation, they can calm down. See?
Can it also be a combination of sensory and behavior?
Absolutely. What I like to think of is for tonight, no? All children have behaviors that we need to correct. When you want something as a 3-year old, you don't get it, what do? You use the power that you have. And what power is that? It's your voice, it's your crying, it's the way you can irritate your parents enough so that they can give you that iPad, right? So that is under talaga a strategy for children to get their needs met, no? Uh, so that's a different story. What we want to focus in today is the behaviors that look like they want something. In fact, they do want something. They want to leave the mall. They want to leave the place that irritates them. See, and that's where the behavior comes from. The cause of the behavior is not the imposition of self. Kasi gusto ko yung gusto ko. It's because the environment is harmful to me. And there you go with your fight or flight.
I can imagine, Teacher Ana, yung, di ba sometimes there's, like when we're cooking and then suddenly we touch the very hot pot. What's the what's the reaction? You remove your hand because it's so hot
Exactly.
and you got burned. So I think is that what you're the same as what
Exactly.
you're saying? Yes,
Mm-hmm.
it's very much.
And we know that from even because I know uh, uh, you're fond of a very very good video that you ask the parents to watch the movie for Ron Kaufman.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I remember him when he came to Cebu, he actually said, uh, I have autism here, and he was addressing the group and goes like, I can hear the air conditioner blowing as I'm speaking, and he goes like, I have to channel my thoughts so I don't zero in on it because it is distracting. And for me, sitting down, I didn't hear the aircon and it wasn't bothering me. See? So many, many things we take for granted.
So, are you saying, Teacher Anna, that our kids can really adjust to their sensory issues?
Um, okay. There is in occupational therapy, no, there is sensory integration praxis test first that we give to kids so we can identify what sensory systems are not integrated. Okay, from there, there are different therapies that you can do. The most common one is called desensitization, which unti-unti nilang binibigay yung unpleasant na stimulus until the body is able to adapt to it. A classic example for me was I had a child who could not tolerate sand. Ang hirap because we lived in a place noon na maraming beach. So they could not bring their child to the beach. He could not walk on the sand at all. See? So, and then he could not play in the sand area. So me as their OT, um, he would be playing. No, I would set up stuff for him. And I would put a tiny, tiny piece of sand lang. Sobrang liit sa hand niya. And he would notice and he would be like, even when he was busy playing, that's how sensitive he was. So I started with many different textures first before I got to sand. And finally, we got to, so we would start with maliit lang na paint until pwede na yung dalawang fingers niya until eto na. So we could do paint, we did foam, we did solids, we did gel, we did unti-unti, and then we finally got into therapy, which the degree is a little bit more solid until we got into, it's not the solid, it's the grainy ayaw niya eh. Until we got into rice. No, before rice, beans muna kasi mas malaki, di ba? So it was actually graded hanggang naging rice, hanggang smaller, hanggang naging sand. And so now I am happy to say he can walk in the sand and he can play on the beach. His family is very happy. But it was a long process, but not impossible. So the answer is yes with the right therapy, and maybe sometimes even no. Like some children outgrow a lot of it, pero ang dyan pa rin, but it won't cause a meltdown anymore. So they're still irritated, but they do this. But and then they're fine. So that's what we call, like, you hear that a lot from parents, di ba? Parang noon he was like this and now we call it he can tolerate it. And then so kung tolerate lang, it's still there but it's tolerable. And then for some, it completely vanished, which is great.
Wow, so it's really possible na talagang mag-i-improve na our kids' sensory issues can really improve. It doesn't mean na talagang it's for life na yung condition nila na gano'n.
Mm-mm. I see some that are for life, but the nice thing about it is because we've identified it, and if it's going to happen, like for example, I have a kid since grade 1, hindi talaga kaya yung fire drill. And 'di ba standard yan, every year, twice a year nagpa-fire drill. So we actually just have to prepare him, tell him, look, tomorrow there's going to be a fire drill and you can do this, you can put earmuffs. Ganon. Hanggang to grade 12 siya, hindi pa rin. But he knows it's a fire drill. So even he still does this, but he can sort of calm himself down and still follow directions to make a line to leave. So I'm not sure if for him na, I would say na manage niya yung sensory issues niya. That would be a different issue. So the thing with therapy is we just have to try. Mm-mm. Because some systems will what we call habituate, meaning masasanay. It's the same with food eh. Like even for us, for example, di ba? There's food you don't want to eat. Like I remember when I was young, ayoko talaga ng Yakult. I remember eating that. Did you like Yakult the first two times you had it?
No.
Parang hindi ko talaga kaya. Then later on ngayon, I'm just like, oh, I can
Mm,
just drink it with no problem. So it's
yes.
that's in a sense habituation. So you do get used to it and your senses are not hyper reactive to it and then you can ingest it. Nasasanay ka rin. Sometimes. Pero di ba if I ask you right now, may food ba talagang ayaw na ayaw mo? Meron talaga. Sasabihin mo kahit mamatay na lang ako, hindi ko talaga kaya. Ganun. It's the same. It's the same. I'm making
Yeah,
it more, giving you examples that will be more relatable na hindi siya masyadong medical. Just
yes.
every practical stuff to remember.
Yeah, if you will ask me to eat a cricket or a worm, no way. I can't.
Ma, I don't know if it's sensory or mental na yun eh. Parang makain ako ng worm.
Yikes.
Oh,
Anyway, kasi there's a question here.
yes, of
I
course.
think there's one parent says, bakit po okay yung brushing sa kanila? Or maybe ang question niya is, bakit there are kids that who are autistic, they have sensory issues with their mouth. They don't want to brush their teeth or they are very picky eater. But some, they keep on uh, eating anything, pati gunting, I mean anything. They will eat rubber shoes or, I mean, slippers. My son used to do that.
Okay, so there are several theories on that one. I'll give you the most popular one. Kasi ang dami talagang nagre-research niyan eh. And as we learn more about brain and body connections, we're able to give better explanations. Remember that when you are young, when you are a few months, 6 months, diba, you learn about your environment through what? Through your senses. So that is why young children are not content with just looking at the item. They need to feel it, they need to bite it. Ang dami kasing nerve endings sa mouth that gives you a very good idea about what this object is. Kunyari, eto, you don't know what it is. So you smell, you taste, you put it, ganon, you play with it with your hands. So, okay, when you're very, very young. As you get older, you still want to learn about the world with your senses. However, because you are older, parang your brain can already discriminate between edible stuff and things that you cannot eat. Am I right? Kasi parang may abstract thinking ka na eh. So when you look at something, this looks like something I cannot eat. So you won't eat it. But you will, di ba, punta ka dun ng ano ba to? Ano ba yun? Di ba? Because we are still learning about materials through our senses now. If a child doesn't have the very strong abstract thinking to know what's edible and what's not, they will try and taste everything to learn about it. So they will say, this is how it tastes, this is how it looks, this is how it smells. So it is not, in that frame of reference, we call it exploration pa rin siya na stage, learning about many different things. Hindi pa siya nagdi-discriminate between something that you're supposed to taste at hindi. You know, children kasi, when they try to taste something like mud, di ba sasabihin natin, oy wag, dirty, dirty. Gaganon tayo. Then they'll realize na, hindi pala pwede to. Then they pick up something else and you say, no, Leaf, you can't eat that. No, put that down. Dirty, you cannot eat that. Diba ganon? So as they get older, na i-imprint siya with our children again, they might be on still that stage where they really like to use all their senses. Ayaw lang kasi natin, especially now COVID, to put stuff in our mouth.
So
Okay.
when it comes to parent or to families, their kids are really into that, keep on biting everything. So their parents will just tell them, no, Nat, don't do that.
Uh,
That's
don't
already,
do
just
that.
keep on doing lang. Keep on
That's
telling that, ano.
that's the first one of the first theories if they are just learning about the environment. Now, the other one is a sensory need. Now, what do we mean by need? 'Di ba kung may itch ka, you scratch it, 'di ba? So, it's the same, parang you have a need and a desire to move the muscles of your jaw. Sometimes a lot of our children with ASD that are verbal say, I just need to feel where my mouth is in space, and crunchy food helps me know where it is. Now, to put it in simpler terms, 'di ba, have you ever tried your body part falling asleep? Na parang i-move mo kasi parang sana ba yung arm ko? 'Di ba?
Nag-numb
You've
na
tried
siya.
that. Yeah, nag-numb na siya, you don't know where you are in space. So imagine your mouth feeling like that na parang, I've tried it actually. Have you ever tried going to the dentist tapos nag-inject siya ng anesthesia and you don't know saan? 'Di ba? Sabi niya gargle. Tapos pag gargle mo, hindi mo na gano'n ng dito. Have you ever tried that? Well,
Yeah.
yeah. Can you imagine having a lesser than that, but having almost the same sensation in your mouth? So what are you going to do to get it? You kind of want the crunchy food to tell you where you are in space, to exercise this part so that it can tell your brain where your jaw is. So that's another of the reasons. So I
So,
would have to look at the child, see. So how do we know? What we call everything in sensory or everything in behavior? We do the ABC with it, which is antecedent, behavior, and consequence. Babalik ka talaga ng saan ba to nanggaling and ano ba yung purpose? Because if it's just that action that I need to do, especially for kids with low muscle tone, have a therapist look and see, di pa parang low yung muscle tone niya, nagdo-drool, ganon. They need to be exercising. So what we do is we have a chewy tube. It's like a shape of a T, and that's where you keep practicing. So para na rin almost the same reason why we give our babies teethers. 'Di ba, nagtiteething. But really, aside from that, is they're also learning to exercise their jaw muscles. Nag-extend lang yung period na yan. So, hindi na siya cute tignan, 'di ba? Parang gano'n, parang 5 naka-ano pa rin, you know? But that part na hindi pa siya na-develop, it's extended to that age, which now does not fall on the normal. So it makes parents alarmed. But for most of my kids, if they move enough, they get the therapy to develop oral motor movement and oral motor planning, which is another seminar in itself. Nawawala din siya eh.
when it comes to eating, does it also affect their eating? When-
Yes, absolutely. If hindi mo ma-feel masyado yung mouth mo, kaya ka nga na-drool and you don't even feel na may drool ka dito. Yes, absolutely. It affects eating. It affects movement. I'm glad you asked that. That's another topic. But what I want to say is, and what therapists know and parents don't know, is sensory is always related to praxis, which means movement. You cannot separate one from the other. Yung one of the great people that studied this, Jean Iyer, she is an occupational therapist. Sensory praxis talaga sinastudy niya. How the loss of sensation or how the heightened sensation affects movement. And so that's very evident sa mouth. Kung hindi mo ma-feel saan, syempre iba-iba na yung ano mo, uh, how to chew your food is probably not gonna be high up there as a skill na kayang-kaya mo.
Okay. Meron dito.
Please tell me if you want me to give examples, ha? Kasi ako rin, I'm trying to look for the right words. Tapos Cebuano pa ako. Tapos Tagalog pa. Oh my goodness.
Well, because in the group, there's always posts on uh, when it comes to their kids avoiding brushing their teeth, or they are very picky eater. Then some of the parents will just comment na, oh, you buy them a vibrating toothbrush. That's usually the answer that most of the parents give when they have sensory issues in the mouth. So is that right?
Yes and no. Okay. As a therapist, kasi the reason I'm having a hard time answering that question is because understand that it's a case to case basis. You know, I've worked, I've worked very, very long time with these children, over 20 years, and parents will tell me, I did this, I did that. And I say, where did you get that? From YouTube, from Google, ganon, ganon. Because when therapists or you have articles, they give you blanket. They give you they give you, kahit anong i-ask mo, parang bibigay siya ng 20, 30 solutions, right? That is why you need a trained therapist to tell you, for you specifically, eto lang. So I want to make sure that people understand that not everything you read is not specific to one child unless it's a case study. Okay, very dangerous kasi yan eh. Kasi you'll say, okay, let's give a vibrating toothbrush to a child that's heavily sensitive, tapos nagba-vibrate siya, magme-meltdown yan. Because too much eh. Para mo nang sinabi to somebody na mahihilo, sige nga, mag-roller coaster ka. 'Di ba? Kung alam ko as a therapist, ano yung threshold mo, sabihin ko sa'yo, okay, let's work on your vestibular system, balance. Okay, let's do swing na ganito lang. Dito lang tayo. Tapos mamaya-maya, matolerate mo, eto na. 'Di ba? Because you are with somebody that knows. Pag sinabi lang sa article, swing, bibili ng swing, isi-swing talaga. So, it's very dangerous because you activate what we said earlier, the fight or flight freeze mode, you shut down the senses, and then you create fear. Next time the child sees the swing, traumatized na siya. So, paano na yung therapy? Wala na. You know? They will fight tooth
True.
and nail. You're driving pa lang papunta ng park, siguro doon ka nag-swing, wala na, nagwa-wild na siya. Because he's trying to protect himself because you overdid the swinging. So it's not, back to your question, it's not the tool. It's the manner by which you introduce the tool. Pag ganun yung sense niya, dahan-dahan. Now, if my child has a higher threshold, nakikita ko yan, straight ako ng vibrating brush. No problem. Kasi I am not violating where he is. I meet him where he is.
That's why I I believe talaga na parents should really know our kids. We should really know our kids kasi our kids are with us 24 hours a day, so we should really know them.
Know
So
your kids. Yes,
yes,
absolutely. I've as a therapist, no, I always tell parents this, that we might be the experts in our field, but you are the expert of your child. Therefore, I don't know everything. If you work with me and you talk to me and you tell me everything you know, I can make better decisions. Kasi minsan, you try to talk to the therapist, may iba ng pasyente, 2 minutes lang nakuha mo, vibrating toothbrush, sige nga. Hindi mo nasabi gaano siya ka-sensitive, how do you react, is it really the toothbrush, baka toothpaste. Baka the gums are really sensitive. Have you ever tried having sensitive gums? You don't want anything touching it eh. 'Di ba? I had a kid, investigate kami, ano pala, canker source pala, hindi pala siya sensitive, may canker source siya, may ano yan sa Tagalog? Oh, doon pala, hindi pala yung issue of sensory. It was,
Singaw, o yan.
oo, may singaw siya eh. Di masakit talaga. Di ayaw talaga ng kahit anong pagkain. See? You know,
Tama.
it's just a matter of exchanging information. So do not act na investigate muna. Investigate muna. Yeah.
Yeah, investigate and work closely with
Work
your
with
therapist.
mo. So I'm
Pero,
always encouraging other OTs, talk to the parents, talk
yeah,
to the parents, because they don't know what's going on inside your session. Paano nila ma-apply sa bahay? 'Di ba? And I also tell parents, please ask your therapist anong ginagawa nila because you pay a lot of money and then you there's time, there's everything and then wala. Hindi mo rin magagawa sa bahay and one time a week, two times a week isn't as powerful as something that's done every day. It really isn't. What can 2 hours do compared to how many hours your child is with you? So, for example, me as a therapist, I'm trying to teach the child to tie his shoelace, kunyari. No? Then, dyan lang siya naglo-learn sa akin. Hindi talaga. Sasabihin ko sa mom, look, we already know step 1, 2, 3, 4. Can you please practice at home? And when the mom practices at home, pagbalik niya, nag-meet na namin yung goal. Masaya ako, masaya si mommy. Work together is what I'm saying. All the time.
that's right. Thank you, Ma'am Ana. Meron akong babasahin dito from Ma'am Nance.
Okay.
Mami Nance says, ganyan po si love ko. Takot siya umupo sa water closet. Pag nag-poop, feeling niya po mahuhulog siya. Paano po kaya maganda gawin?
So, ano yung first question niya? Parang loaded yung, parang tatlo yun, no?
Um, ah, takot siya umupo sa water closet. Pag nag-poop, feeling niya mahuhulog siya. So, paano maganda gawin? I think this is more on the therapy, potty training, I think ito eh.
Potty training. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, for potty training, we want a good potty seat. Na parang, di ba malaki? If the child has to strain like this kasi feeling niya mahulog, sino namang gusto ng ganon, di ba? So, getting a potty seat is the key. So your child doesn't feel like nasasak siya into the toilet.
It's
The
true.
correct potty. All right? The other issue, sad minsan, is some of our kids feel unstable if their feet are not on the ground. Diba? Kasi there's a loss of control. Like, I cannot just get up, no? So minsan, it's also good to have the little step ladder. I mean, there's so many areas that you need to investigate, Mommy Nance. Tingnan mo muna saan, ano ba talaga yung issue. But I will tell you that we had that discussion a month or 2 months ago. Teacher Fritz, an OT, came and she was really discussing about potty training. Paano gawin? Maybe we should revisit that.
It's in our topic section, post topic section.
Uh,
It's there. You can click about potty
mm,
training. It's there.
and the good thing about Teacher Fritz also is ginawa niya yung thesis niya about potty training. How na-collect niya yung mga ways that parents have been successful and then hopefully she can come up with this really, really good summary of it all and then share it with us. That would be great.
Okay. There's another mom here says, si Mami Rhea, sabi niya, my love, ayaw sa ibang bahay, ayaw maraming tao. What if po yung love ko gustong naglalaro ng sand and rice? So, yan yung ano niya.
Ano yung question po? Ano yung, that's probably
what,
just a comment.
yung isa, comment lang, my love, ayaw sa ibang bahay. But this one is, what if po yung love ko, gustong-gustong naglalaro ng sand and rice. Maybe siguro laging nilalaro yung rice sa bahay nila.
So go ahead.
Hmm.
Sure, why not? There was a study done. So maybe I should come back and talk about that. Now, there's different types of play. In self-exploratory play for a lot of children with ASD, na prolong siya eh. 'Di ba? So like for example, like lining up cars is very common with ASD, but that is actually a trait of a neurotypical child. Pero yung neurotypical children lang, they line up cars, they don't stay very long in that stage, nagmo-move on sila. For our children ASD, they kind of stay in that stage for a longer time um, than normal. So kaya nagiging parang hallmark siya. So if your child is in that sensory stage of doing the rice and it calms him and he's happy, go ahead.
That's right.
Right? That's right. Go ahead. One of the case studies we did was a very very bright uh, uh, lady with ASD, and she goes to college. She is nonverbal, so she doesn't talk at all. The way she talks to you, she types. She types really fast. And in that documentary, I saw her, as I said, she goes to college, no? Kung ang dami niyang homework, assignment, and the day has been really stressful for her, she gets a spoon and a fork, and she lets the water run, and ginaganon niya. Siyempre sa atin, sabihin natin, sa US to eh, na, sayang naman yung tubig. But, ginaganon. And the harder her day was, the longer her time relaxing with the water. Gumaganon siya. Now, to a person who doesn't understand autism, they'll say, nako, ano ba yan? Like, you're wasting water. Kailangan ba ng ganon, ganon? But that was her self-regulating time to get her de-stressed. Some people, like me before COVID, I would go get a massage. Some people like to eat ice cream. Anything to regulate us, di ba? So our children with ASD also have things that help them regulate. Nawiwirdan lang tayo kasi hindi siya common, right? But
It's true.
if the sensory play is what makes them feel great and less stress for the day, go. Because I would never tell a neurotypical person to say, ay, wag ka na magpamasahe, di ba? Oh, ibahin mo na lang yung way na ma-relieve ka ng stress. We cannot dictate that per person. It's not fair eh. We have to respect that.
Very much true. The word respect and acceptance, that's why it's very important to really have acceptance talaga. No, now we will not get offended when we see our kids doing something that they really love doing.
Mm.
There's another one here, Ma'am Anna, from Mommy EJ. She said, my son is a picky eater. He only eats eggs and hot dogs with rice. What is the best thing to do for him to eat other viand? Thank you so much. Mahirap yan. That's hard. If your child
I
is
think
only
you can
eating
answer that, Mommy Josie, kasi you went through that, di ba?
yeah. If your child is only eating hot dogs and eggs with rice, it's not really healthy. What I did with my son is really little by little, really exposing his taste buds to different kinds of foods like fruits, vegetables, a little by little. I am training his taste buds until he really likes to eat na fish, fruits, vegetables. And now if you will ask him, what do you like? For pork or fish? He will just choose fish. What do you like? Pork or vegetables? He will just choose vegetables. So it's a matter of training din yata sa taste buds, no, Ma'am Ana?
Yeah, the as long as there are no sensitivities, and you will know because, for example, my kid only eats mashed things, mashed potato lang, lugaw lang, ganun ganon. So alam ko yung it's not a matter of taste, it's a matter of texture. Pag lahat naman, pag kinuha mo yung data, tapos tingnan mo, oh, bakit lahat to salty? Bakit salty lang tsaka extremely sweet? You know, then you'll know how to approach the situation. So my answer to that would be find out muna why. But kung wala siyang sensory issues and it's more of a preference, or a behavior or this food makes him feel safe, it's routine, it's secure, then I would go your route, yung ginawa mo, Mommy Josie, which you're very successful in, di ba? Nga unti-unti. So,
Mm.
so it's the same, you know, uh, I also work at a preschool and the parents are asking me the same thing. How do I get my kids to eat vegetables? 'Di ba? Sabi ko, the same thing. You 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 slowly put it in, and from one of the very good uh, theories, no, or programs on feeding, kung walang sensory issues, first is they let the child tolerate it on their plate. Nasa plate lang, hindi kinakain, nilalagay lang yung broccoli, no? Tapos gano'n, gano'n. Tapos later on, sasabihin nila, okay, you can kiss lang muna the broccoli. Okay, tapos unti-unti you can now taste, gano'n. And they do that um, with lots of children that are picky eaters that are not ASD, ha. Oh, actually, meron din, ginagawa din nila na process yan. But it's the same principle like what you said, Mommy Josie. It's the same. Little by little. Kasi in the first place, who fed him the hot dog? Di ba? I have parents na hindi talaga kailangan talaga Jollibee. Like, sino
Lolo, lola.
got them, lolo yung lolo, who got them into this? Kasi makakontrol mo talaga yan. Even now, as an adult, like I eat certain vegetables kasi I ate them when I was young, eh. But I don't eat okra, and we were not just eating okra in my house. See? So food talaga is when you're young. So the younger your child and you don't want your child eating junk food, don't have it at home, period. Wag
That's
mo na
true.
lang i-expose, hindi mo pala ma-maintain at saka hindi naman pala siya healthy. And then parents will say, kawawa naman. Hindi sila kawawa kasi hindi siya healthy in the first place, eh.
True.
'Di ba? Wag na, kasi one day develop a taste for it and you know that they're gonna love junk food because it is processed in a way that makes us want it more and crave it more, then dito tayo magpaproblema. So avoidance is sometimes key.
There's another mom. Mommy Genevieve says, my son is 8 and cannot tolerate the sound of running water from the faucet. What's the best thing to do po to lessen his sensitivity? How to desensitize him po? First time ko to
Okay,
marinig.
okay. Running water, that's a little bit tough. Kasi nga,
Hmm.
I would like to know first, what I would do to investigate is, saan? Is it running water everywhere or is it only in the bathroom? Kasi minsan, in my experience, nandyan lang siya sa bathroom kasi echoey, eh, na
Hmm.
hindi natin nadidinig. Di ba yung, that's why we like to sing in the shower kasi parang ang ganda ng
Ko.
boses natin, di ba?
Yes.
Because the echo, parang nada-drown niya yung out of tune natin, di ba? But, um, there is iba yung acoustics po sa bathroom. Kasi minsan nato-tolerate ng mga kids ko outdoor, pero it's really the bathroom na nag-e-echo. So, first find out where. And if it's general across the board, lahat ng everything na nandun sa water, and then I would talk to an occupational therapist and find a way, ask them about the sensitization type of therapy for hearing. So sometimes it's actually telling the child that I'm going to on it pero little lang, kaunti lang. Sometimes what we do, there are more advanced kasi techniques sa labas, eh, where different sounds are actually pre-recorded. Does that make sense? And then they're also given several kinds of degrees hanggang ma-tolerate mo na yung full sound. And then that's done na may acoustics na ganon. And then they're made to listen to that. So music, music, music. Konting drops, ting, ting, ting ng water. Yung ganon. Meron ho siyang way. Hindi lang siya available dito, but the principle is still the same. Little by little. What you don't like to happen is to shock the system. And never, never shock the system or make your children cry. Because if it is, as I said, di ba, harmful siya, like yung sabi ko sa inyo, yung parang scratch ng blackboard, you will avoid that, eh, because it is protection. It is fight or flight. And your children will no longer trust you. And when that is broken, hindi
Mm.
mo, ang hirap mo na. Di ba, Ma'am Josie, you stress so much connection. Your
Yes,
children have to trust you that you are safe, that you will
that's
not
true.
bring them to harm. So pag binigyan mo ng task nga na hard, they trust you eh. So they'll most likely do it or try because they trust you. Now, if you break that trust kasi nga, okay lang to, I'll just put on lahat ng ano, i-tolerate mo na yan, yung ganon, then yon, you have a very sad child who is very afraid of many things because they no longer feel safe in their own home.
So feeling safety is very important, parents.
Yes.
So from Mommy Flor de Liza, uh, she's asking, paano po i-manage ang sensory issue ng cutting of hair or using razor po?
Mm.
Si
Cutting
haircut.
hair is
Hmm.
really, really tough,
Hmm.
but not impossible. Um, you know, uh, there is something about sharp scissors na ginaganon mo sa ear mo na I don't know, you guys try it. Di ba? Parang,
Hmm.
and it is scary for a lot of our kids. And the razor, nga, zzz, that sound, the vibration is also scary on your head, especially if you don't know um what's happening. So it could be a combination of just fear. It also could be a combination of talagang masakit siya sa tenga yung pag-close ng scissors. So let's try to find out why. Kasi if it's just a fear, it's easier to do kasi you can do social stories. You can model cutting hair. You can show them videos na parang something to alleviate their fear. Mm-mm. Through time. I'm not saying you show two things, you show a song, you show a dance about haircutting, it's going to go away completely. So, di ba lahat ng fears natin um, go away slowly? I'll give you a good example para you can really frame it for yourself. Kasi minsan, as parents or therapists, we have these unrealistic expectations of our children eh. But if you remember as a child, di ba sinasabi ka na, sige, tulog ka na, may momo dyan. 'Di ba? Then you're really scared. You're trying to sleep pero yung isang mata mo naka-open kasi nga may mumu, 'di ba? Because fear is very, very high on the list of children. When they're really scared, nafo-frozen ka. Yun na nga eh. Lalo kang hindi nakakatulog kasi baka pupunta yung monster kukunin ka. 'Di ba? So, understand that these things could be very fearful for our children, and a lot of children with ASD, yung acquisition ng receptive language is not high, meaning hindi mo lang makakwento o ma-alleviate yung fear nila. In children, irrational sila eh. 'Di ba? Sabihin mo, "Why are you scared?" But there's no momo there. I-open mo na yung door, lahat-lahat, nakikita na nila, scared pa rin sila. See? So, because that's the nature of children. That's why they'll say, Mommy, I want to sleep with you tonight. Ganon. So, going back to that question, find out if it's a sensory dun sa pag ganon ng scissors or yung razor, or is it just a fear? As I said, yung fear is easier because we can do social stories, going to the barber, telling him, I'm gonna snip only one. Isa lang talaga. All done. Tapos tomorrow, dalawa. Dalawa lang, all done. It's a very slow because you have to prove to the child, just like the parent opening all the windows, all the doors, that there's nothing there, and yet they're still scared. See, but through time, they're going to convince themselves na, oh nga no, there's nothing pala to be scared about.
Okay.
But the child has to feel that, and you as an adult, you make that available for them.
Okay, there's a follow-up question is from Mommy Flor de Lisa. Paano po i-manage pag nag-headbanging po yung kid para di siya masaktan?
Again, we go back to the principle of ABC, antecedent, behavior, and consequence. What made your child headbang in the first place? See, yun lang talaga. If you don't know the cause, then it's very hard to give a direct answer. Um, Now, a lot of actually, in my experience, a lot of head banging really happens more, not so much sensory, but more because they don't get what they want.
Mm.
Children, a lot, I'm not saying hindi siya sensory need ha. Sabihin ko lang sa experience ko, it's usually more of hindi ko makuha yung gusto ko. So, in children, um, what they do is they cry. So, when they cry, you give it, right? Kasi irritating yung cry nila, kailangan nila. Okay, so now they learn that every time I cry, I will get what I want. And then lumalaki, lumalaki. So you're like, hindi na to cute, hindi na, alam ko na, hindi. So then they cry even louder. Now this time they cry and then they hit you. 'Di ba? And then you say, okay, okay, wait, nasasaktan na ako. Eto na yung iPad. Ganun na. Or, I'm so sleepy na. O, sige na, eto na anak. Kasi ang gulo-gulo para matahimik, right? So then next time, you say, hindi na talaga pwede. So then they cry, they hit you, they slam the door. Hindi siya nag-work. Then they figure out, I'm gonna hit myself. Pag mag-headbang na yan, what do you do as a parent? Oh my gosh! They're banging their head. Hindi yan pwede, hindi yan pwede. Ibigay mo na yung iPad. Kawawa naman. Baka ma-brain damage pa. 'Di ba? So most of the time, it's they learn na if I don't get what I want, I just escalate. I get worse and worse. See? And every time you give in, that's what they learn. So sabihin ko sa parents ngayon, when you mean no, no talaga. Wag mo na silang pa-explore, pa-creative thinking, paano nila makukuha if I do this. Kasi even, that's a very innate human thing eh. It's just like a teenager, kulang siya ng attention talaga ng parents niya. So what does he do? And he's sad about life, but it's really this emptiness. He gets a razor and starts slashing. Isa na rin yun eh, di ba? Self-injurious behavior din yan eh. And what do parents do? They run, anak, anong nangyayari? Ganun, ganun. So, the best thing to do is not to get there. Keep your children busy. Give them healthy stuff. Don't, pag ayaw mo ma-addict sa iPad, wag mong bigyan. Get him other activities. Now, madali tong sabihin, 'di ba? But it's really really hard to keep looking for activity after activity. But guess what? There's activities that your child will really really like. Like if he's enjoying the rice, give it to him. But the point is anybody, hindi lang children, pag walang ginagawa, kung ano-ano na yung
It's true.
naiisip, 'di ba? So, um, I cannot answer that question fully without understanding why. Kasi kung sensory naman talaga siya, na talagang there's something in his head na nakikita niya, nahi-hear niya, ganon-ganon, and nai-irritate siya that he has to bang his head, then maybe if it's a sound, we can teach him to cover. If it's an itch, we can teach it to scratch. If it's a headache pala, nagma-migraine, kaya binabang na lang yung head, iba na naman yung approach mo. Again, ABC, antecedent, sorry, behavior, and then consequence.
Ayan,
Investigate.
investigate. Parents, we need to investigate. Ayan. There, from another parent, hi po, lately po, lagi po nilalagay ng anak ko ang kanyang mga daliri sa bibig. Though we are currently working with the therapist about mouth and jaw exercises, naninibago lang po ako. I haven't told yet the senior case manager about this kasi once a month lang po kasi meeting namin together with the speech therapist handling my child here in our area. Thanks po. Ayan. And then,
Balik na naman tayo sa Why is he
Or
suddenly putting that all in, no?
yes,
Okay.
investigate. Then
Oo,
another.
investigate na naman. 'Di ba? What is so so if you really want to be a good this is what I tell the therapist, if you want to be a good clinician, you investigate. Just like parents, find out muna why. Kasi dun din yung solution eh. Like why would somebody put all the fingers in? Is it a calming sensation for him? Is it, but kasi COVID ngayon and we don't like them touching, maybe again, we can do the chewy tube muna na ito yung acceptable, yung fingers mo, hindi. So, kasi nakakuha pa rin yung sensation kasi siya eh. Ganun pa rin, we can always do a substitute, right? We can always teach our kid, sige, um, ah, don't scratch like this kasi ganito na lang, ganito, na your itch will still be relieved, pero wag lang gamitin yung nails talaga kasi nasusugat, 'di ba? May substitutes din yan eh na magagawa muna as a band-aid, and I say band-aid solution because we don't want what's not appropriate. And why is it not appropriate? Because of hygiene purposes. So, kuha ka na lang ng something else na malagay o kaya makain na ma-meet pa rin yung needs niya na hindi yung kamay niya. If we also know yun talaga yung reason.
Okay, there's another one here, Ma'am Ana. Good evening. My son likes to stamp his feet, hands on the wall, windows, floors, and doors. He likes to make some noise, especially when he wakes up at 3 a.m. What should I do to control this? Thanks. Ayan.
Well, first of all, um, let's take away the word control. Um,
Yeah,
yes.
it's
So let's
true.
replace it with a positive word like manage.
Yan, manage.
And the reason I say this, parents, is because I want you to have the healthiest outlook possible. When we substitute our words, we are more calmer na parang, ito, paano ko i-help yung anak ko ma-manage yung needs niya? Is very hard if we come from the word control because it makes us anxious and it makes us feel like wala akong control sa situation, ano na nangyayari, ganun. So let's talk about management, not control. We will be very disappointed if we try to control other people.
True.
Minsan hindi nga natin nagsistruggle pa rin tayo mag-control. ng
Tama.
diet ko,
That's
paano
right.
na yung ng diets. So, what about other people? Okay. So, let's use the word manage. If that's okay with you, whoever asked. Okay. Now, first, 3 a.m. is the worst time to do this because obviously you're asleep. So, I sympathize with that. Okay. Now, if lang ha, if this is a sensory issue, a sensory need, so I get up at 3, some people have the need to exercise and stretch. You know these people. These people jog kahit umuulan. Di ba? Nag-exercise talaga yan kahit sasabihin mo, why do you have to wake up? And then nakikita mo sila nagja-jog or nagbabike, right? Ang init-init, gano'n. And they say, no, 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 it makes my body feel good. Like, I don't feel complete kung hindi ako maka-exercise sa umaga, hindi ako maka-yoga, hindi ako whatever it is, no? You see a lot of them. Kaya nga, may pera sa triathlon, di ba? Like, if you really think about it, sino bang tamang mind na magbayad para mag-swim ng kalayo-layo, mag-run, tapos bike pa, di ba? So, different people have different movement needs. Okay, let's establish that first. Number 2, if he wakes up and he has the need to move, and it makes him feel good after, meaning after he does all that, he is more centered, he is more calm, then that's a good thing for him. Bad thing lang kasi, it is at an ungodly hour of 3 a.m. So, if yun talaga, meaning the body needs to move, my suggestion for that is to give that throughout the day para the body gets what it needs and it doesn't have to wake up anymore at 3 just to get it.
That's right.
Alright. Now, kung behavior siya lang, purely behavior, I want to wake up my parents and I need attention at this hour, so I will bang the door and all this ganon-ganon. Iba na naman yan na approach. 'Di ba? So I would do behavior modification na naman. So rewards and punishments to stop the behaviors I don't like. So again, ABC pa rin tayo. Investigate where it comes from so I can give a better answer.
Ayan. Then there's a follow-up question here. Maganda po bang may certain diet na i-apply sa child natin?
Yes. Yes, there is. And it's only a very, very simple rule. Very simple. The further you are away from nature, the further you are from health. In other words, God gave us this beautiful earth na may apples, na may mango, na may gulay, lahat. Kainin na natin yan. Hindi na tayo pupunta ng, nako, ayoko na sabihin kasi may Pringles ako dito. Pero, nakikita niyo rin ako, nagpa-fast food. But the reality is real food po. What
Yeah.
God provided, that's because our body can digest it better. And for a lot of our children with ASD, no, they have digestive issues as well, or leaky gut syndrome. You can read about it. A lot of them are sensitive to gluten, things of that nature. So yes, please give him the healthiest diet possible. And ako talaga firsthand, I've seen the difference. Yung isang bata na tinanggal lahat ng junk food, nagkain ng totoong food, na in other words, sabi ng mom niya, actually several moms have done this, no? And I really saw the night and day, di ba, Ma'am Josie? Sabi niya,
Yes.
nagsashop ako sa one part na lang ng grocery. Hindi na siya pumupunta sa canned good, hindi na siya eto na lang talaga. Dito na lang na part. And I have to tell you, it's a different kid. And it's true, when we eat better, we feel better. And so we
That's
have
right.
those.
Mm,
Great question. Mhm.
that's good. Next, from a certain mommy also. Hi, Mommy Josie and Teacher Anna. Please advise, what should I do to my son having tantrum every time when he heard the dog's bark? He always hit his nose and mouth. Thanks. Oh, sakit yan. Okay.
Mm-mm. Okay. Well, let's find out first why he hits his mouth. Has he been doing this ever since he was little? Kasi if it's a sensory issue po talaga, it exists noon pa. Almost like you're born with it, no? Like, it's like kung allergic ka ng peanut now, malaking chance allergic ka rin when you're 3 years old, when you're 4, when you're 5, when you're 6. Something like that. Until your body, again, habituates. Kung bago lang yan, I would also look at the type of, I know this is crazy, but I would also look at the type of dog. Is the sound high pitch, low pitch? Ang dami ko pang i-investigate niyan to find out the cause. Because if I know nga may pattern siya, kunyari very high pitch na mga sounds, then I would talk to my OT, and the OT would do desensitization techniques starting with high pitchy sounds and then see if he tolerates that hanggang ma-tolerate niya na yung sound ng dog. Now, if it's nothing to do with that at all, hindi ka maka-find ng pattern, it's probably not that. When the child is busy and the dog barks, wala siyang reaction kasi busy siya eh. Then that might not be a sensory issue at all. Because sensory issue is kahit busy ka, kung masakit siya sa ear, sa tenga mo, masakit talaga. Right? So I would have to ask myself, where did he learn this behavior? Na parang automatic. Na when he hears it, he hits himself kaagad. Then I would use behavior modification. icha-channel ko na lang to acceptable behavior first. Then you need to, ABA is very good at this and behaviorists. So when they start hitting, alam mo na eh. Like sometimes you would even expose it to that para we can stop it. Okay, only here, dami. 50 different times. Yan. Okay, iba na naman. Hanggang here, hanggang quiet hands na. Unti-unti mo siyang unti-unti mo siyang tinitake out. Now, with behavior modification, it works more if you give an alternative. Always give the child an alternative. For example, if you don't want him to do this, then pwede ba this na lang? Kasi the problem sometimes with us parents is we don't do that, don't do that. And then the child will be like, so what can I do? 'Di ba? Hindi ko naman ma-stop yung ano. So, 'di ba? So, bigyan mo ng alternative. Kung hindi pwede yung ganito, pwede ba like this lang, like this, rub lang anak, rub. And I've seen that work better than sa stop ka lang ng hand, wala namang alternative. Galit. Para mo na rin sinabi to somebody na nagagalit na and may just cause siya na galit. Kunyari, somebody stole something from him, so galit siya. Tapos sabihin mo, huwag kang magalit. Pwede ba yun? Di ba? Like seriously, hindi pwede, di ba? You have to say, it's okay, sige, galit ka, pero hindi pwede you'll punch him. Sige, stomp your feet na lang. It's like, ow! You know? But don't stop the emotion.
Yeah, that is why
Oh.
the more we say stop, the more they tantrums, the more they
Hindi talaga
Anong
yung nag-work
nagwala?
yung stop na yan. Dapat bigyan mo ng alternative. And by the way, when a child has tantrum, meaning may certain level yung tantrum eh. Pag pinakamataas na, they will not hear you, they will not see you, they will not respond. You will just have to keep them safe and wait for the tantrum to be over. Kasi ganun din tayo, di ba? Kung super galit na, kahit sino pa yan, nag-uusap sa'yo, out ka dyan, di ba? Pero if we're only a little bit angry, pwede ka pang pakiusapan eh. Oo. Ganon din yung kids. So don't let them reach that level of anger where they hear nothing, see nothing, and just experience their emotion. You know, let them be. Children have tantrums all the time. Just keep them safe.
Grabe. I am learning a lot today.
Yeah, I can take more questions and then kasi, nako, 9:30 na rin.
Oh, 9:30 na. I think konti na lang.
But thank you. I don't know, are you guys learning a lot?
A lot. Me, personally, a lot talaga. My son cannot tolerate nail cutting. I can only do it when he is asleep. What therapy can I do to help him in that area? Ako problema ko niyan sa aso namin. But yan, hindi ko magupitan ng kuko. But my son, he always cut his own nails.
I would, for me, the one that has worked for me through the years, and this was a slow process. Or almost, I tell parents, let's give it 6 months. Pero minsan nare-reside siya in 3. I would always start with ganito lang. Letting him tolerate lang na natatouch siya. Minsan nga, touch lang eh. Okay? And then later on, ganun na. A little bit more pressure. And then pretend lang nagka-cut. You know, if you are very patient and you break it down into the simple steps, and by very patient, I mean you are so scared that you will cause your child to distrust you or cause any form of trauma, I will tell you, you will be successful. Kasi you're meeting them at their level eh. Diba? And so, you start with simple touches. Simple hand play. Simple ganon. Kasi sometimes, for children, it's not even the cutting sa nails eh. It's like, it's the fear of not knowing what will happen next. And it's also the restlessness of sitting. Diba, you remember when you were small, parang ayaw mo talaga mag-sit still just to cut. Kaya nga yung mga bangs natin, gumaganon na, diba? Kung parents natin nagka-cut. Kasi, eto na ha, We don't sit still. Can you imagine you're asking your child to do the same? So please start lang with the nails and then do pretend lang. And then they should see you cutting your nails. Make it a point na kung yung ginagawa nakikita nila. Para they'll also say na parang, "Hmm, that doesn't look as scary pala." So, patience and a long process. Usually, sa experience ko, 6 months siya. Of constant, ha? Nakikita nila every day almost. Ginagano niya yung mga siblings. May video pa, may ganon because you're alleviating the fear and managing the expectations.
Ayan. Then kay Mami Jean, hello Mami Jean, she's right now in the US. Ang question niya is, my son is nonverbal. How to handle biting and what other best activity to encourage to try to talk? Ayan.
Okay. So dalawa siyang question, no? The first one is the child bites and you are in the US, Mommy Jean. Okay.
Yeah.
First, because you have a lot of resources there, usually kasi sa US, free yung therapies, it is paid by the school district. I am going to ask a therapist to look into the biting phenomenon. In other words, when does he bite? How often does he bite? And does he bite to hurt? Or does he bite to scare? And does he bite to feel his jaw? Kasi sensory nga parang hindi mo ma-feel kaya ka nagbabite. Or is that a form of aggression or a form of saying no? Kasi dun rin yung answers to what you need to do eh. Is it people that you bite? Is it your shirt? Um, Marami pa ho yung multifaceted ho yung biting. So again, ABC, go back to why he bites, look at the frequency. So for me, if it is self-injurious behavior like yung head banging kunyari or biting, I always ask mom to have a notebook. Tell me the situation by which the biting started. Ay wala lang sa morning gano'n. And minsan they can pinpoint, sabi ng mom, "Oo nga pala, nag-change kami ng milk." Yung mga things nga only moms know if they investigate. Dun lang pala, protest pala yon for the change of milk or actually behavior lang kasi para siyang nagagalit because hindi siya nabigyan ng toy. So, dito na naman siya babawi. You know, I just have to know the reason because to be honest, our kids uh are not ASD kids are not born wild or violent.
It's true.
They don't
Mm.
come out and say, "Well, I'm ASD and I'm just going to," I would investigate kasi your child is also non-verbal eh. So mas mahirap. But non-verbal doesn't mean non-communicative. Meaning, just because I don't say it, it doesn't mean that my face, my actions are not trying to communicate something. Even my
Mm.
grunts, no?
True.
So I would again try to understand a child's way of communicating with me. As a therapist, I've done that. Ito pala yung meaning niya. Ito pala yung yes niya. Ito pala yung no niya. Ito pala yung ano niya. And then I can communicate better and do my therapies better. And I know moms have done this beautifully. Kayo lang nakakaintindi. It's because you guys listen. When we listen, we will learn talaga how our kids, because they are communicating to us um, constantly. So again, for the mom in the US, please find out why and then talk to a therapist, because if it is sensory, it is easy. Again, if it is behavior, there are many behavior modification techniques you can actually try.
Okay. Um, I think we'll just have last three.
Okay.
Uh, Mami Marisa says, we don't have an OT here in Masbate. This is very timely actually. It is really hard to do a teletherapy. Can I have a to-do list on how to start the intervention? My son is 2.5. Thank you.
Okay. So this is how I would start kung walang therapist. I would go and look at a developmental chart po. Okay, I can Google one. It's called a developmental chart. A good one is from the CDC, Center for Disease Control. This is a website run by the US government. Yung Center for Disease Control nila is the one that researches, I know it doesn't sound good, Center for Disease Control, but these are the one that researches vaccines, yung mga diagnosis, diabetes, lahat-lahat ng mga diseases. So they also have a developmental chart on their website. In fact, they have an app. I would download that app. Tapos ilalagay ko lahat ng levels ng anak ko. For example, they will ask, does your 2-year-old jump? Does your 2-year-old help putting on his shirt? Ganon. Right? Kasi that way, I can find out where my child is functioning at. Kunyari, I will input everything. I will use that chart, no? Yung expectations ng age. And then, yung 5-year-old child ko, nakita ko, nako, functioning pala siya at a 3-year-old. So now, 5 years old siya, functioning at a 3-year-old, meaning may gap ako na 2 years. Right? So that's where I'm going to start. I'm going to look at the different areas and see activities of daily living. Nako, he's supposed to eat na pala on his own. Nako, sinusubuan ko kasi. 'Di ba? Kasi baka papayat kaya wala tuloy siyang self-feelings. Yung kasi Pilipino mahilig tayo magsubo eh kasi ayaw natin, parang feeling natin pag payat yung bata hindi healthy, 'di ba? Natatakot. So our kids will not learn how to feed themselves. Is what I'm saying. Tingnan mo yung kulang niya na skills. From there, I will work on them. So, kunyari, nako, yung child ko hindi pa potty trained, dapat 5 years old na, dapat potty trained na. Ano kayang magagawa ko na potty training? So, you cannot start intervention or parenting, kahit hindi na natin tawagan intervention, kasi intervention is more used sa therapy, no? So, I would call it intelligent parenting is to find out ano yung gaps, ano yung mga skills na kulang, and then work on it. What I always like to tell parents kasi is the more disabled a child is, the more you should push for independence. Ang nangyayari kasi, kung disabled po yung child or may special needs, lalo natin pinoprotect. Kawawa naman, tulungan nyo na, alam nyo naman, may ano niya, ganon. Hindi natin pinopush, which is not the right way to approach it, in my opinion. The more your child has needs, the more you should focus on getting them as independent as possible. Don't try to protect them, because by getting them independent, you are helping them cope with the world, and that is the best protection we can give our children.
Okay.
So that's where I would start.
Okay, last 2 question na po tayo ha. If we will not be able to answer your question, don't worry, Ma'am Anna will come back next.
Baka. I'll come back.
Might come back next month. We will try to reschedule.
Oo,
So,
makabalik ako dito kasi ang dami nyo namang
ang daming
resources
question.
din eh. Oo. Hindi yung question, maraming namang tao makaka-answer dito. Kung
Yeah.
i-invite ako ni Ma'am Josie,
Of course.
Sinabi ko baka. Kung ma-invite ako ulit kasi.
Naman. Okay, this question. Ok lang po na nakapag nag-bite siya kay mommy at daddy, paluin sa puwet? Ayan.
Hindi po. Okay.
Ayan.
Here's why. Here's why. I'll tell you. Okay. Kung there's something we don't like, tas pinapalo natin, yung message po that we send to our kids is this. When you disagree with something and ayaw nyo ng something, i-hit nyo rin. So, cause pain. 'Di ba? Kaya, I run a preschool and then sasabihin ng isang bata, oh, teacher, she's bad, oh, spank her now. 'Di ba? Yan talaga ang nasa isip nila. Pag hindi mabuti, dapat isa-spank. So what will the child do? They'll go to their classmates, isa-spank nila rin. Kasi doon din ang nangyayari sa bahay eh. See? So if if you know this, and this could happen to your kid, um, then you need to think twice about the type of discipline you want to instill. So again, before you go into that spanking route, kasi minsan kasi spanking is very powerful eh. Kasi masakit eh. So nalalearn ka agad ng bata, ay hindi ko to gagawin kasi masakit. 'Di ba? Magagalit si mommy, daddy, masakit. Pero they will not learn this, ay hindi ko yan gagawin kasi it's not good. Parang yung first talaga is they avoid pain. Yun ang primary um, motivator ng kids, which we want the opposite. We want them to not bite because nga it's not proper, they cause pain to other people. Hindi kesyo I won't bite kasi hindi ako mapapalo ako, because also children will learn that if I do this and they don't catch me, okay lang, kasi there's no more pain, hindi ako na. So maraming milagro ang mangyayari sa bahay ninyo. That's why I don't really do any spanking. However, that's not to say you don't do anything. You can show your displeasure. For me, I tell parents also, you reserve yung galit nyo pag something not to do with safety. Kunyari, yung kamay papunta na sa plug, shout! Takutin nyo. Wah! Bakit? Di ba gaganon yan? Kasi, di ba? Because that's safety na. Kung mag-cross siya na street na walang ano, please get mad. Yun siguro, okay na yun ipalo. I'm not sure about that answer. Kasi you want to imprint that na hindi talaga yan pwede. Never na never. Kasi nga, it's a safety. At least that is my standard. So if they're biting me, I can get there and say, bigyan ko muna ng teether or something else. Sabi ko, oh, eto na, i-bite mo kung galit ka. Hindi pwede si mommy, si daddy. Eto na. So as I said, we'll do the alternative route. Kasi pag ikaw pa rin binabite niyan, baka attention ang gusto niyan eh. Children misbehave usually because of attention. The second reason they misbehave is revenge. Galit sila sa'yo for some reason. Maybe because they didn't get their attention. 'Di ba? Yung nasa TV kaya kayo, hindi nyo na ina-attend. That's another reason why they misbehave. The other one is fear of failure. Kunyari, they don't want you to know na bagsak na pa sila or they lied, ganon, kino-cover up. That's for more sophisticated children. But for the most part, look at attention as number one, and then revenge as the second one, because their needs are not met. And then try to meet it para mawala na yung biting. But again, look at what causes it so that we can address it po. ABC na naman tayo.
Yes. And last question. Yay! Nasa last na tayo. My son, di na po nawala yung pag-tiptoe niya. 3 years old na, pero tiptoe pa rin. Paano po kaya yun na mawawala? Okay. Parents, don't worry for yung mga questions na unanswered. We will take note of that para next time na pumunta si Ma'am Ana, ipapa-answer ulit natin sa kanya.
No
So,
escape pala to. Okay lang. Anything for you guys. I'm a big advocate of ASD. I spent half my life researching, looking for ways to help us. So this is a privilege actually for me to share information. So I'm happy talaga to come back and share.
yay.
Let's go to tiptoeing. I like this.
Yan.
Thank you for asking. Now, let's first see bakit nagtitiptoe yung bata. Alright? So, if you're a parent right now, I invite you to stand up and tiptoe. When you tiptoe, you feel the ground more. Correct? When you tiptoe, you feel the ground more because your weight is distributed on your toes and you know where you are in space. When your interoception, di ba, I told you about the 8 basic senses, are not very good, hindi mo ma-feel yung ground, parang natutulog yung feet mo, hindi mo alam saan, you tiptoe para magta-tighten yung muscles mo and you know where you are in space. And it helps you actually walk better because not in terms of balance maybe, but in terms of direction, di ba? Kasi you feel your feet more. Okay. So may purpose yung tiptoeing. Now, the other reason children tiptoe is because sensitive yung feet nila, and they don't want it flat on a certain surface. You might think your tiles are not cold, but for them it is. 'Di ba? Iba-iba naman tayo ng temperature or yung texture. Or ito talaga, a lot of my kids say that they don't like certain shoes kasi sabi nila like may isa lang maliit na sand or something dun sa floor, ayaw na nila kasi yun na nga, sensory sensitive, so they'll feel everything as they walk, no, and they prefer certain shoes, ganon. Okay, find out first which of these two are the causes. Now, the reason I like children to have their feet flat, and this has happened to me personally, um, hinayaan nila na magtipto yung bata all the time. So, they didn't, so, it's okay for me that kid tiptoes, but not all the time. Kasi what happens is, yung Achilles, yung tendon niya, na-shorten through time. So, he became grade 6, hindi na nagpa-flat yung ano niya, masakit na. So, what the doctor had to do was surgically, kunyari, ito yung, was surgically removed the tendon kasi hindi siya naglenten, nag-shorten siya. So ngayon, na-wheelchair yung bata ng 6 weeks. 'Di ba? May surgery pa. Hindi na nagpa-flat because they let him tiptoe too long. This is true story. This happened caseload ko yung bata. So galit na galit yung mom. Sabi niya, sabi kasi ng therapist, okay lang mag-tiptoe ko. Well, I don't know what she said to you, but if it was me, I would still insist every now and then having his feet flat, and how I would take him to the grass, we would be running, we would go to the beach, many, many ways of getting him on his feet flat, like putting him on a balance beam. Mahirap kasi magtiptoe ng mga balance beam. I would do many, many different things to get him to flatten because I don't want that tendon to be shortened. So find out the cause and then find out ways to flatten it. If it's sensory, if it's behavior, please address it. That is not to say nga, hindi mo talaga siya ipapatipto. Kasi baka need niya, like I said, to find the balance. I-try niya yung tipto, di ba? Mafe-feel mo talaga yung ground. And because you feel the ground, again, you know where you are in space. But give reasons na mafa-flat yan for the sake of the tendon.
Yes, actually, this is one of those topics and issues that um, we really need to do something, and at the same time, we can really pray for it also. No, mga parents, it's not bad to pray for your kids' needs,
Not
because
at all.
this is one of those needs that we really need to pray. That's why I am just laughing when there are people saying, "Oh, our kids are not broken. We're not going to pray for them." No, there are so many issues that we need to pray for our kids about. Okay, so now we will pray before we end up, before we say goodbye. Let's pray because our kids needs prayer. Sige po, let's pray. Father God, thank you very much for these wonderful discussions that we had tonight. Thank you for the life of Ma'am Anna. Thank you for her heart that's really willing to help us parents. And I lift up to you every parent who's joining right now and who will be joining the replay later, Lord God. I pray for your guidance and wisdom upon us, strengthen us, and help us, Lord, to be able to be a good help to our kids, to be a good investigator to our kids, and give us wisdom how to respond to them. I pray that may you strengthen them, help them, and provide for them. Help them to be able to connect to their kids. And may you give us, all of us, a very good night rest tonight. Thank you, Lord Jesus, that you are our Savior, our wonderful, sweet best friend, and we just honor you tonight, oh God. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen and amen. So God bless you, parents. Ma'am Ana, last word, last hurrah before we I end the broadcast.
I guess, ifa-follow ko lang sino yan na si MacArthur, I'll be back. Yun, di ba
Yay!
Um,
So,
no, I'll be back, and I hope I can answer, and I can, as I said, pasensya na ho parents kasi I need medical history. I need more history before I can give you the talagang mapinpoint natin yung causes. But what I want you to take away is that investigate lang talaga. Yun lang. That's it lang. And then help your therapist figure it out, because once you know, there are so many ways to overcome it. But some of the times the reason it doesn't work kasi hindi siya nagmamatch eh. Kala nyo sensory behavior based pala. Kala nyo behavior based, sensory pala yung problema. So, yan lang. So, that's the only, keep an open mind and be very, 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 very patient, because it takes time for the sensory systems to normalize or to tolerate certain sensations. Mm-mm.
thank you, Ma'am Ana. And parents, we are not going to have our Facebook Live next Wednesday. We're going to meet at Zoom because we're going to have our coffee and tea meet up, online meet up. So, see you next Wednesday. And on Friday, we're going to have a live prayer together here again in Facebook. And please be informed that this is my new account. I'm sorry, I cannot access my old account. So if anyone is messaging you from my old account, it's not me. So verify first before you do something or anything with that old account. So thank you and good night and God bless. Have a good rest. Bye bye.
Bye!